All right, Shalom. You reached the Heat Pray channel. My name is Azim Wath. First and foremost, I want to say, Call Halayim, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Harakhakwadash. Double honors to the elect apostles and prophets of Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, which is Great Millstone, where I learned this truth from, and who rule well. Salutations to the Bakyar, the elect, the 144,000. It's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. 12 tribes of Israel consist of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. The 144,000 being the governing body within the one-third. The rest of the one-third comprises of elect men, women, and children. Shalom to the Israelites scattered due to the diaspora and also the triangular trade. So our people come looking like different ethnicities, having various complexions. So it's not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that died in this truth. Says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shah on his return, including our King, King Mashah, who is King David. And as always, it's an honor and privilege, honor and blessing to continue to do this work. The water Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem HaRachakodash for permitting me to do such and answering my prayers. Baba Kashah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem HaRachakodash allowed us to be an edifying video for at least one member of the elect. Now this topic is going to be entitled Immolation, dealing with, these Chud the Builder, copycats and the rise in tensions that the so-called white man who started calling himself white in 1681 in Virginia due to the Bacon rebellions is starting to immolate, the whole violence and tempting you Israelites towards violence. So they have an excuse to delete you, to prove to the world, oh yeah, you see how these people act, you see how these people are, they're animals, they're chimping out, which, it's all a big ritual, big sacrifice. So let's go to the word immolation in the English etymology from Latin immolare, to sacrifice, to sprinkle with sacrificial meal, to offer up. Connotation, violent offering, burning, self-destructive zeal, sacrificial destruction, because these individuals are going to say the same narrative, it's free speech. That's the reason why we could, call these ends an end. It's just free speech, but dealing with Revelation chapter 12, verse 12, right? The word for wrath in the Greek, thymos, boiling anger, as this economy and this society continues to deteriorate. And, these people feel like they have a voice in office. They have a person that's going to back them up. The Most High is putting the spirit on them to really show their horns and have the ability to enact on their anger, right? It says explosive rage, And you're starting to see the explosive rages. If you go to TikTok, if you go to Instagram or YouTube, the world star, you see that spirit of rage on these people, man. It says fury that erupts suddenly. You know, that fury example of could be, them going into a store and shooting it up, going postal, you know, and that's the reason why it's not safe to be in large gatherings, man. You gotta move incognito, just like you got things hidden away on your computer in incognito mode. That's how you gotta move. Lashawan Kwadash, Thawam, heat, rage, fury. This is the spirit animating unstable domestic actors, and some of them are just a psyop, and then others are just copycats, you know. It says lone wolf imitators and Chud the Builder type copycats who feel authorized by the climate of chaos, you know, and he was doing it. I guess somebody revealed that it was because of a road rage incident, and a Jake woman uploaded that incident to the internet and caused him to lose business, and eventually he lost his business. And from that point on, he had a vendetta against so-called black people. Even after he was um, getting pegged by a transgender black woman, so-called black woman. You know, sometimes you can't make it up. But this is Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. It says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Those that are in the heavens, in the spiritual world, man. And why is that? Because even the elect are going to have to go through what's coming upon earth, man. But unlike, the rest of these people, the elect are going to be protected by the unseen world. It says woe, which woe means destruction to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. Even the sea, man, is going to be polluted. It's going to be contaminated. And a lot of those aquatic animals are gonna die. It says for the devil, which devil means deceiver and also accuser. Which we know the devil as a so-called white man who was really Esau, according to the scriptures. It says it's coming down onto you, having great wrath. Right. I'm gonna go to that word wrath. That's why you gotta move. You gotta tread carefully, right? So here's the word wrath in the.
Strong's G 2372. Thumas. Thumas.
Which means passion, angry, heat, anger, forthwith, boiling up, and soon subsiding again. Let's go to, wait, hold on. Did I see something? To rush along or on, be in a heat, breathe violently, right? And then the root.
Strong's G 2380. Thuo.
Thul,
Thuo.
which means to sacrifice, immolate, which is going to be the title of this video: to slay, kill, slaughter. You know, so going back to Revelation, verse 12, chapter 12, verse 12, it says, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And they see the writing is on the wall. That's why they're talking about making America great again. And America being great again is when they have full control. But they're seeing that that control is slipping away. They're seeing that they're being humiliated on the world stage. They see, that their military is not up to par. It can't bully the world anymore, right? Going back to co-pilot, it says the devil has come down unto you, having great wrath. Lashawan Kodash, Gadath, Awam Rab, great boiling fury. This is the spiritual atmosphere behind the rise of unstable domestic figures, men who feel summoned by chaos. The copycat Chad the Builder phenomenon is a manifestation of thymos, rage seeking a outlet through immolation style acts, right? So let's go to 1611 in the Apocrypha, Second Ezra chapter 15, which Second Ezra chapter 15 is speaking loud and clear right now, both foreign and domestic. I'm going to switch to the KJV version and read 15 verse 16. I'll start at 14. This is Second Ezra chapter 15 verse 14. It says, woe, which means destruction, to the world and them that dwell therein. For the sword in their destruction draweth nigh. And, the modern day sword could be the gun on a micro level, or it could be the nuclear missile on a macro level. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands, right? Because even domestically, America is armed to the teeth, man. They always say there's a gun behind every blade of grass, and unlike you Israelites, these Edomites have bullet machines. They have bullet makers, where they can make more and more and more bullets, right? That's why we need Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua Ba'ashem Harakakodash, a higher power to protect us. It says, for there shall be sedition among men, which I'm not going to go into that word sedition, but I'll just say another word for it. A synonym is anarchy. It says, in invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes, right? They're not going to care about civil authority. They're not going to care about the police. It says, in the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So the Most High is going to allow them to do what they desire to do, right? Going back to co-pilot, it says, for the sword in their destruction draweth nigh, sedition among men. Lashawan Kodash key word, Mahama, uproar, turmoil. Commentary, the text describes internal collapse, not foreign invasion. The Chud the Builder copycat archetype fits this. Individuals radicalized by social decay, acting as if they're offering the nation up in sacrificial destruction. trying to make America great again, trying to put you jakes back into captivity. Let's go to Isaiah 19, or is it 9 and 19? Yeah, it got to be 9 and 19. Right. It says, Isaiah chapter 9, verse 19, it says, through the wrath of Yahweh of hosts, which host means armies, is the land darkened, and the people shall be as the fuel of the fire. And this is also talking about the nuclear destruction. It says, no man shall spare his brother, right? So you're not going to be able to have power to try to save your brother, man. It's all tied to if they're of the elect or not, or, you know, within the 1/3 elect. Going back to co-pilot, it says, through the wrath of Yahweh, the people shall be as the fuel of the fire. Now, sometimes co-pilot goes off, especially according to prophecy, so I'm going to catch it as best as I can. I already prayed before I did this video, for it to be according to, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah's will, not mine, for this to be an edifying lesson. Lashawan Kodash Af, anger, nostril flaring, rage. Commentary, immolation imagery, people becoming fuel. Domestic actors become kindling, igniting tensions already smoldering. The Chud the Builder imitators are symptoms of a nation burning from within. And that's exactly what is happening, man. These they need someone to blame. So the best one that's to blame is, who they showcase on TV, who they doctor their statistics for, you know, which a lot of that is a bunch of lies. Mind you, according to Job, he's I believe Job 13 and 4, he's a forger of lies, but nonetheless, they're creating a villain, and the villain is you Jakes, you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous, man. Primarily, and on top of that, for lack of better words, food chain is you Judites, you niggas, niggas. This is saying Matthew chapter 24, verse 12. And because iniquity shall abound, which iniquity is sins upon sins. And that's the environment in which Esau has created within his concrete jungle. The ability for people to do as they will and not follow the law, statutes, and commandments of the Holy Bible. You have the freedom to do wickedness, because of course you have laws, you have statutes, you have codes, so it's not talking about, oh, you have freedom to do whatever you want. Yeah, you have freedom to do wickedness. That's the whatever you want. You have the choice if you want to follow the Bible or not. In Esau's concrete jungle, it says, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. That word wax meaning grow. It's going to grow cold. The love of many, right? Going back to co-pilot, because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Lashawan Kodash, key word, ahaba, love, goodwill. Commentary, coldness plus lawlessness equals the psychological soil for copycat extremism. When society loses moral warmth, individuals seek meaning through the destructive offerings, immolation of self or others, right? So these people are just, following the footsteps of other individuals in a massive sacrifice, a ritualistic sacrifice, right? This is 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. This know also that in the last days, perilous, which that, we're going to break that down, but I'll say it goes into dangerous. Time shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves. And you see that with social media, man. Even these women, you know, they only care about themselves. Covetous, they want everything. They want the money, cars, and clothes and hoes, you know, and they'll do anything and whatever it takes to acquire those things. Boasters, proud, you know, there's a lot of proud people out here, man. People never took heed to Kendrick Lamar, bitch, be humble. It says blasphemers, those, that are speaking ill toward Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, disobedient to parents. Now, this could be on the level of in this truth, or this could be on the level of, those that are not in this truth. Even in this society, you have a lot of accounts of individuals killing their parents. Unthankful, unholy. They're not separated. And this only applies to you so called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America, man. These scriptures, because it was only given to you. It says, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, you know? And that's you Jakes out there despising the men of the Lord that are out on those street corners teaching the Bible, man. We've been warning you, starting with the apostles and elders, that these days were coming. Going back to Copilot, it says, in the last days, perilous times shall come, fierce, despisers of those that are good. Lashwan Kodash, Aratsa, Ara, Taza, fierce, savage. The Chud the Builder archetype is a fierce, alienated man who interprets chaos as a personal calling. This is the psychological immolation, burning one's own sanity to make a statement, you know, which, Chud the Builder don't have nothing to do with being with this truth, man. But for you individuals that participate in wickedness, that are Israelites, this is what it produces. It produces, the Most High rising up certain men to have that burning wrath against you as a form of punishment. Mind you, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai controls all things, you know. Um, 22 to 27. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, and I'm going to start at verse 22. It says, moreover, this was not enough for them that they erred in the knowledge of Yahweh, but whereas they lived in the great war of ignorance, and a lot of you live in the great war of ignorance, man. And none of you want to research. None of you can't. Sometimes you could just ask AI, but a lot of you refuse to do such. And how do I know that? Because, I've been talking to a lot of individuals on this social media platform, man. I tell them to go research, and yet they still want to spew their bullshit. And I'm like, man, I done heard that shit, the bullshit that you're spewing, 1,000 times. All you got to do is go out there and research, because men have already done the heavy lifting. It's already researched for you. At this point, if you don't believe, the Most High don't want you to believe. It says, those so great plagues called they peace. For whilst they slew their children in sacrifices, and that's what our people do, especially our women, when they go to Planned Parenthood and sacrifice their child to Moloch, because that's exactly what these Edomites are anticipated on, for you to sacrifice your child to Moloch, right? Or use secret ceremonies, or made a lot of those secret ceremonies is, those different parties, man. Within those parties, a big thing came out was the Diddy parties. And now I think the DOJ said that all those that were on the Epstein list are not going to be prosecuted, man. And a lot of secret ceremonies was going on with that. It says, or made revelings of strange rites. They kept neither lives nor marriages any longer undefiled, but either one slew another treacherously or grieved him by adultery, sleeping with his woman. And this is Israelites doing these things. It says, so that they reigned, which Esau learned these things from you Jakes, man. A lot of things that Esau learned is from you Israelites, man. A lot of the things that he stole is from you Israelites. And these, the rest is from these heathen nations. There's nothing original about this damn devil, man. It says, so that they reigned in all men without exception, blood, manslaughter, theft, and dissimulation, corruption, unfaithfulness, tumults, perjury, disquieting of good men, forgetfulness of good turns, defiling of souls, changing of kind, disorder in marriages, adultery, and shameless uncleanness. For the worshiping of idols not to be named is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil. And they're all doing this to appease a false god, man, that doesn't even exist. And now they're trying to cast a spell about this whole alien thing, man. And possibly paving the way for Project Bluebeam. Going back to Copilot, it says a rage and desire, a disorder of the life, a confusion of things. Lashwan Kwadash, keyword Ragash, to rage, to be tumultuous. Commentary, this describes a spirit of confusion that leads to ritual-like violence. And that's where you get, when you go into the word and the etymology of it, you get the word victim, which is a sacrifice. It says modern copycats mimic each other like idolatrous rites, each act feeding the next. This is Jeremiah 51, verse 46. It says, and lest your heart faint and ye hear, for the rumor that shall be heard in the land. A rumor shall both come 1 year, and after that and another year shall come a rumor, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler. Going back to Copilot, Lashawan Kwatash, keyword Hamas, violence, wrong, cruelty. Now I'm going to see what Copilot is going to say. Commentary, domestic instability, which those in the scriptures, a rumor is a report, and those reports are going to eventually lead to violence in the land, right? And then ruler against ruler is going into World War III, right? And none of these heathen nations are saying anything about you Jakes here in America or making any attempt to try to liberate you. You know, despite them making, little cartoons and propagandized videos towards you, no one's lifting a finger to try to save you. Commentary says domestic instability grows through rumor cycles, online radicalization, and imitation. The Chud the Builder phenomenon is fueled by echo chamber prophecy, where men believe they're part of a larger destructive narrative, which that narrative was being pushed by Nero, which was make America great again. And the only time America was great, according to them, was when they had eugenics in slavery, man. Now, this is talking about Esau. This is Obadiah, verse 7. It says, all the men of thy confederacy, which that's his alliances, right? Even going back to Psalms, I believe it's 83, have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee, right? And that's dealing with, NATO and, these nations that were dealing with his money and prevailed against thee, because they're eventually going to shoot their nuclear missiles on him. They that eat thy bread, that deal with the petrodollar, have laid a wound under thee, because with the petrodollar comes debt, man. So they're eventually going to stop even dealing with the petrodollar as a currency, which is going to collapse, America, man. Because who is America going to be able to trade with if nobody is using their money? It says there is none understanding in him, right? Because if you got a dumb MF like Donald Trump leading the way, no, he doesn't understand that he's bringing destruction onto his house. Going back to Obadiah, the men that were at peace with thee have laid a wound under thee. Lashawan keyword, or Lashawan Kwadash keyword, Mazad, ambush, trap. Commentary, the danger is, now this is going off, but I'm gonna read it. It says the danger is internal betrayal, citizens turning into threats. Oh yeah, you could have that too. You could apply that too, because it's gonna be both foreign and domestic, right? Immolation here is symbolic. The nation is burned from within by those who once blended in, right? Because you have scriptures like Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2, where it says he's going to set Egyptian against Egyptian. And we know the modern day Egyptians are the Americans. So it says synthesis, immolation in the Chud the Builder copycat spirit. Immolation equals sacrificial destruction, wrath, thymos, boiling eruptive rage. Domestic instability creates ritualized violence, where unstable men imitate each other like a dark liturgy. Revelation chapter 12, verse 12 frames this as spiritual atmosphere, not random psychology. The Chud the Builder copycat phenomenon is a manifestation of wrath, a boiling spirit seeking expression through destructive acts that feel symbolic and sacrificial. This is the immolation of a collapsing empire where individuals become the torches. Right. One thing Chud the Builder said, he said he wants to kill uh, a chimp, as he was referring to you Judites, so he could start basically a race war, you know. So with that, I hope at least one brother of the elect was edified. And I'm going to say shalom.